So this section isn't really a section. I'm going to call it 4.3. I'm going to do 2 problems and give you then 3 a quiz. So this would be more kind of like review and quiz. Review and quiz. So you won't have a worksheet for this section. I'm just going to do 2 problems, and then you're going to do 3 on your own and bring them up for me to check. So in the review section, I'm going to tell you to solve these 2 proportions, and you might want to just kind of quiz yourself. You might want to pause and then check and then pause and then check. Obviously I can't control that, but sometimes it's better to have you try it yourself versus me just doing them. But first one up, we're going to do x over 3 is equal to x plus 1 over 4, and we're going to solve that. First thing I do always with these is set the cross products equal. So I'm going to say 4 times x is equal to 3 times x plus 1. I'm going to distribute the 3 in, and I'm going to have 4x is equal to 3x plus 3. Now my goal is to solve for x, and I don't have a quadratic equation here, so I don't really need to get it equal to 0 and factor and do anything weird. I just have x to the first and x to the first. All I need to do is attack that x, but in order to attack it, I need to get it together. So when it's on both sides of the equation, remember what I do. I move the smaller one by doing the opposite. So what is smaller, 4 or 3? And the answer is 3. So I'm going to move these over by subtracting from both sides. And I basically get x is equal to 3. And I'm done. Now again, these are really checkable. So before you turn in your quiz, you might want to take and plug yours in. 3 over 3 is 1 on the left. And on the right, I'll have 3 plus 1, which is 4, over 4 is 1. And those are completely in balance. So when you do not get an x squared term, no need for you to do anything weird and start getting it equal to 0 or factoring. You just simply approach it as you normally would. However, if you do get an x squared term, then you got to deal with it. And here's what I mean by that. Number 2 of the review. I've got x over 4, and this way when you're taking the quiz, if you need to pause, rewind, and go look at these examples, that's perfectly legal. It's the beauty of this class. You're never left hanging with not knowing how to fix things. So again, I still have these proportions. They all start the same way. You can't start them wrong because you have to cross multiply. So I say x times x minus 5 is equal to 6 times 4, which is, 6 times 4, which I'll just do in my head as a 24. My goal is to attack the x. It's trapped in some parentheses, so I'm going to distribute. X times x is x squared. Now on this one, I can't get my x's all together because they're not like terms. This right here is what tells you you need to get it equal to 0, and then you need to factor it. If it is not to the second power, you don't need to do that. You can just attack it with some algebra. If you have this, let's even make that 7, you just add 1, you'll get 2x is equal to 8. You divide by 2, no factoring, no getting equal to 0, just straight up algebra 1. But this one I can't do that because I can't put an x together with some x squareds. So that's when I get it equal to 0. And in order to do that, I need to subtract 24 from both sides. And I get x squared minus 5x minus 24 is equal to 0. And I need to figure out what x is. I can't attack this with regular algebra because, again, that x squared and that x, they can't consolidate and go together. But what I can do right here is factor it. And then once I break it apart, I won't have x squared and x. Here's why. I've got a pair of numbers that multiplies to equal 24. Is it 4 and 6? Nope. Can't get a 5 out of those. I can get 10s and 2s. Is it 2 and 12? No. I can't get a 5 out of those. I can get 14s and 10s with pluses and minuses. What else goes into 24? 8 and 3. Can I get a 5 out of those? And the answer is yes. I can't add them because that'll give me an 11. But if I make this one negative, Now I add up to -5 and multiply to equal a -24. So I can factor this into x minus 8 times x plus 3. And that's what's got to equal 0. And again, remember, if two things multiply to equal 0, then either the left is 0 or the right is 0. What makes x minus 8 0? And the answer is 8. Or you could set it equal to 0 and solve. What makes x plus 3 equal to 0? And the answer is -3. Or you could set it equal and solve. So those are the review problems. And the next thing up is a quiz. So I'm going to give you a little 3-problem quiz on this stuff, and that'll be it. We won't be testing on this section. So first of all, I am going to have number 1, just be a real easy one, x over 3 is equal to, let's say, 8 over 12. That's number 1. Number 2, I am going to have 3 over x minus 5 is equal to, and you can just write these down and then turn the video off. I'm not going to solve them. This is a quiz, so once you solve them, you'll bring them up to me. You may or may not get decimals. If you do, round to the nearest tenth. That'll be number 2, and then leave some space. Your number 3 will be 3 over x plus 2 is equal to x over 8. Feel free to use your notes. Feel free to use the videos. If you get more than one of these wrong, I'm not going to allow you to move on, and I'm going to make you go do a little bit more work, write a couple more out on your worksheet and stuff. So go really slow. Look at your notes. Look at the review notes. And that's it for this little mini section.